Сегодня я хочу поговорить о Doomsday.
Today,
Снова говорим
I
на русском,
want to
потому
talk
что у
about
меня есть такое желание,
doomsday.
чтобы мои слова
I
достучались
am
до
speaking in Russian again
многих сердец.
because I have a
Очень
strong
сегодня
desire for my words
имею
to reach
возможность
many hearts.
говорить на
And
нескольких
it's
языках,
easiest to do this when I have the opportunity to speak in several languages. Well,
из
let's try again.
слов Иисуса, которые Он нам оставил,
From the words of
которые
Jesus
некоторым
that
из
he
вас,
left
кто
us,
хотел бы прикоснуться к
for
Библии,
those of you who
я
would like
рекомендую
to
начать
approach
прямо
the
с них.
Bible,
А,
I recommend starting right there.
Так замусолили его слова во многих
His words have been
случаях,
so overused in
что
many
у
cases
многих из вас
that many of you have a wrong impression of what he
что он пытался
meant,
сказать, о чем
what he was
он
trying to
хотел,
say,
хотел нас
what
предупредить.
he was
И
talking
так, если
about,
обобщить,
what he
то
wanted to warn us about.
одно из основных
So, to
предупреждений
summarize,
было,
one of the main warnings was
чтобы мы были аккуратны с теми, кто пытается
so
нам
that we are careful with those who try
Что такое Doomsday? Ну вот давайте закроем глаза.
to stage or provoke doomsday.
Мы
What is
попытаемся
doomsday?
найти.
Well, let's close our eyes for a second, and we find
Продолжаем
ourselves in
чувствовать
darkness.
себя, как и чувствовали
What do
до
we
этого.
feel? We continue to feel the same as we did
Концентрироваться,
before.
попробовать, ощутить,
We can
где наши
focus
чувства
and
находятся.
try to feel where our feelings
глаза.
are.
И мы снова в свете.
We opened
Благодаря
our
свету мы видим то,
eyes,
что мы видим.
and we are in the light again. Thanks to the light, we see what we see.
В жизни
In our life, in life,
есть основная энергия. Она так и называется – энергия жизни.
there is a primary energy.
И
It is called life energy. And due to the fact that we
в направлении науки и
made great strides in the direction of science and many discoveries,
мы
but in the most important moments,
или нам
we
помогли
lagged
отстать.
behind, or were helped to lag
Энергия
behind.
описано подробно достаточно.
The energy of life is described in detail in a book from the series,
Книга так и называется.
The Ringing Cedars of Russia. The book is called The Energy of Life.
Взглянуть на этот вопрос.
Well, we tried to look at this question in previous videos, gradually leading up to today. And we found out that
Люди манипулируют этой энергией, знающие,
on our planet, people manipulate this energy,
контролировать нас.
knowledgeable people, for their own purposes,
И вот мы закрыли
to control
глаза,
us.
и мы все равно чувствуем себя, ведь так?
And so we close our eyes,
Когда мы
and we still feel
тело
ourselves,
или
right?
скафандра,
And even when we no longer have our body, or spacesuit, or virtual
мы всё
helmet,
равно
for this reality
себя
we are
так
in,
же, как и с телом.
we still
Некоторые люди
would
нас
feel
боятся
the same
немного, но их
as
становится
with the
больше,
body.
уже научились,
Some people on our planet, there aren't many,
они переносят
but their number is growing,
и когда они
have already learned to travel without a body.
в путешествиях, они
They
могут
transfer their second
описать, как
self.
они чувствовали себя в
And
момент,
when they talk about their journeys, they can describe in detail how they felt at the moments when they saw what they saw,
наши чувства
where they were.
тела едины в
And
одном
so,
пакете, в одном
when our
пакете.
feelings and body are united in one
Как
package,
мы выяснили в
in
предыдущей
one
книге,
set,
и опять же с помощью книги «Звенящие кедры России»,
as we discovered in previous videos, and again with the help of the book, The Ringing Cedars of Russia,
который отражается
our body is a power plant for producing that very light which, reflecting from the sun, gives life to all living things on our planet.
То есть это не просто мы здесь
Well,
как-то находимся,
It's cool to think about it like that.
и свет
I mean,
здесь есть.
It's not just that we're here on this stage, and the light is already here. We add this light on this stage with we are present and we participate. We are not just present.
И вот Иисус, когда говорил нам перед тем, как Он ушел,
Jesus, when he spoke to us before he left,
не попадались на крючок
his
тех,
words
кто
were
пытается
specifically
воспользоваться
about
последними
not
днями.
falling for the bait of those trying to provoke the last days or doomsday in
Вот
English.
если мы посмотрим на последние 50-70 лет, вот
So,
это самое чувство,
if we look at the last 50, 70 years, then this very feeling we are talking about,
почувствовать. Раньше люди говорили,
often we don't have time to feel ourselves. In the past, people would say, "How do you
как у
feel?"
тебя дела?
Today, we more often say,
Важнее,
"How do you do?" "How are you doing?"
хотя можно.
But it's more important how you feel than how you're doing. Although one could argue about that.
Чувство,
So,
наше чувство. Вот я 10 лет
feelings,
назад задумывался часто.
our
Почему сегодня
feelings.
я себя чувствую так?
10 years ago, I often thought about this.
Вот сегодня я счастлив,
Why do I feel one way
а уже на
today and
следующее
completely
утро
different
я
tomorrow?
чувствую себя
Today I'm happy, but the next morning
задумался, почему
I feel lousy.
вчера я был счастлив, а сегодня утром я
I
чувствую
wondered
себя
how.
счастливым.
Why does this happen?
Так вот,
After all, yesterday I was happy, and this morning I feel lousy.
манипулируют уже
So,
давно. И многим из вас это известно.
our feelings have
Просто
been
многим из вас
manipulated
известно,
for a long
насколько
time.
глубоко эта
Many
манипуляция
of you know this.
уже
It's just that many of you don't know how deeply this manipulation has already sunk its fingers or
50-70
roots.
лет последних
But
у нас
here,
появилось много технологий. Телефоны,
over the last 50 to 70 years, we have developed many technologies,
в машине
phones,
очень много разных
gadgets,
устройств.
GPS navigation.
И вот
There are
то,
many
что
different
добавлено
improvements in
к
cars.
технологии,
And if
проще
we
всего,
just look at
заглянуть в
technology,
которое
the
нам показали
easiest way is to check
доступными благодаря
WikiLeaks,
смелому Сноудену.
which became available to us
Туда
thanks to
заглянуть,
the
там есть
brave Snowden.
программы.
If you look there,
Я нашел больше 20,
there are soft
которые используются на
archives.
наших устройствах, телефонах,
I found more than 20 that are used on our devices, phones, computers, to manipulate not only our
через
energy,
манипулирование нашими
but mostly our energy
artificially.
through manipulating our emotions.
Очень интересно было почитать
Artificially.
названия тех программ.
It was very interesting to read the names of those programs, like Shut Down After Midnight and things like that.
Потом
I highly recommend you take a look.
уже напичкали в автомобиль.
And then,
То есть есть
let's see what they've already packed into the car.
там
That
находится
is, there is a seat that can be moved with a button.
но эта электроника
There is
находится
electronics there that will move this seat. But this electronics is located nearby,
органом мужчины, который играет большую роль
with a man's
в
organ,
энергии жизни, в производстве этой.
which plays a big role in this life
Можно
energy,
загасить,
in the
например,
production of this life energy.
опустить его.
That is, you can, for
До того, как он
example,
приедет на бизнес.
suppress a man, lower his consciousness before he arrives at a business meeting. With such simple technological methods. And why? Because many do not know how it works. This life-giving organ of a man, and the consciousness, and the heart, they kind of work together. And if you influence the chemical processes of one, you can affect these processes. And why? So that he loses, so that the man loses, so that he loses his deal, his meeting, what he planned. Next, we see the influence on us through the food we buy and eat. Why? Because we can only buy what is available in the store.
Я думаю, всем понятно.
Well, I won't delve deeply into this. I think it's clear to everyone. How else are we manipulated?
Часто
We're still talking about the same feelings.
забрасывают крючок. Это как рыбалка.
Often, they just throw us a hook.
Ждут, пока мы
It's like fishing.
клюнем.
They cast the line and wait for us to bite the hook.
Испытываем боль,
And then they pull. And while they pull, it hurts.
ненависть.
We experience pain, regret, anger, irritation,
Все как бы
hatred, heavy energies.
от
That is,
добрых,
everything.
от любви.
Everything kind of leads away from kindness,
Наверное, замечали,
goodness,
когда вы испытываете
from love,
радость или
from
любовь,
joy.
как будто что-то
You have probably noticed that when you feel joy and love, it's as if something is in the way.
какой-то
Something is always blocking it.
всё время
Some kind of nonsense, some event, some call is always trying to interrupt this feeling of happiness.
когда это происходит сегодня,
So, when this happens today,
просто случайно.
it's no longer just coincidences, but technological programs specifically working to knock you out of this feeling of joy or happiness.
Для того, чтобы вас выбивать из этого чувства радости или счастья. В прошлых видео мы пришли к тому, как бы подняли тему
In previous videos,
о том, что
we came
от
to,
того, что
well,
мужчина
raised a serious topic about the fact that what a man experiences at a certain moment in
в
time,
нашем мире,
the feelings he experiences, adds more light to our world during the day,
то есть если мужчина испытывает
or less.
или радость,
That is, if a man experiences love or joy.
любовью к женщине или
Again,
просто чтением
we talked about it being provoked by love for a woman, or simply by reading the Bible, for example,
любимым делом,
or playing with children,
то это добавляет
or with a dog,
в наш день.
or simply doing a favorite activity.
Солнце дает
This adds light to our day, which, reflecting from the sun,
но
gives life to all living things. But
на протяжении последних лет
if we look over the past few years, we will see many interesting patterns that we all noticed but somehow missed, skipped,
о чем я говорю.
overlooked, ran past.
Об
What am I talking about?
трансгендер,
Well, for example,
когда
about this transgender situation.
используется максимально,
That is,
уже дошли до того,
when all these technologies are used to the maximum, have reached the point where they decided to cut off some body parts in men,
творящие
which directly affect the main function of life-giving, life energy production.
вливание искусственного
A lot of brainwashes,
false information,
artificial false information, or fake information. For example, that a man can be pregnant.
например, о том,
The simplest example.
быть беременным.
But a lot of it is being spread. Why?
Но вливается очень много ее. Почему? В Библии мы также знаем, что слово это как
In the
штурвал
Bible,
у корабля.
we also know that the word is like a ship's rudder.
Приятное словосочетание.
For example,
Это повлечет
if I say some pleasant phrase, it will result in you feeling pleasant.
приятно.
If I say some sad news, then most likely you will feel according to what I told you.
То, скорее всего, вы почувствуете в соответствии с тем, что я вам сказал. Если, конечно, вы не отвлечены на что-то другое. Но словом и словосочетанием
If, of course, you are not distracted by something else. But with a word and a phrase, you can directly control feelings. Therefore, we see today that the news seems to aim not at providing us with reliable information, but at manipulating our feelings at a specific moment in time. For instance, in the morning, we're driving in the car, and on the radio station, they're chattering away a lot
И где мы
about
в
everything,
данный момент времени
about a lot,
находимся в этом чувстве,
sometimes about nothing,
очень
most often
важно
about nothing.
научиться
and our
не
feeling,
привыкнуть к этому уже.
it's always
И
bounced
научиться,
around,
если
meaning
видишь, что ты
we
находишься
can rarely stay grounded in it. Something is always distracting us. And where are we at any given moment within this feeling? It's very important to learn. You need to get used to this already and learn. If you notice that you're in a rather low emotional state, to snap out of it, not to linger in those feelings for long. For example, we watched the news and we felt overwhelmed. Or we watched an episode of a show and it got to us. Because in those shows, we know what's happening and what it's all about. If it hit you hard, it struck your heart. We felt how harsh things were there, and we sent that feeling into space. You shouldn't do this. In the words of Jesus, when he specifically warned us about this very day, he said that you must decide right now how you will feel at that precise moment, ahead of time. Many of us know how Jesus spoke. It's interesting to consider why he spoke in that particular way. He strived to convey information to us, to those who are at a certain level of understanding, and even beyond that. And so that those at a certain level and below wouldn't understand what he was talking about. That is, he was protecting us from those who are against us not grasping the meaning, while we did. But it turned out worse. It turned out that those who understood did everything to make sure others didn't understand. And those who understood decided to profit from it. It's so interesting that you probably sometimes woke up from a dream where you found a treasure chest, and then you woke up. And such a disappointment. Man, it would be so great if I could just pull it from that dream and bring it right here, into my life. But just as we closed our eyes at the beginning of this video, at some point we will wake up from this reality that we are currently in. And we've woken up to this more than once. But not about that now. And we understand so much in that moment, how perhaps we were so wrong. But this film, or game, or life has already reached its conclusion. Nothing can be changed anymore. You can no longer change anything in the lives of those whom you held by the hand just yesterday. The time has come to an end. And with such manipulations, what is the true purpose of this manipulation? It's designed to steal our precious time, to manipulate our emotions, to stir us up in the wrong direction, and to take our finances. So, in other words, to make our experience here, this gift that God has given us, a negative one. But let's go back to the beginning. If we consider the words of Jesus, this is a warning about that dark day, about doomsday. Then it's a very serious and significant topic. And now, let's pause and think. Who is it that manipulates us? We've just been discussing how manipulation is occurring through technology, through food, or simply through other financial manipulations. So the question is, who exactly is doing this? Well, we know, for example, from the 19th century, from the very beginning of the 19th century, who were the main players? We know what America went through and who it fought against. We know what Russia went through and who it fought against. We know how we, America and Russia, together fought against a common enemy. But now, somehow, everything has changed. It's as if a neighbor is poisoning my trees, trying to kill them.
Как-то непонятно. Не особо. Так вот, это чувство,
But he also gives me his gardener's phone number, so that when they died, I would call his contact,
выбивать из этого чувства.
from whom he would
Потому
receive
что
a
всё
cut.
вокруг, оно нацелено на это,
Well,
чтобы тебя
it's
вывести
kind
из
of
этого
dark.
радости, счастья,
So,
отвлечь,
this feeling that we find ourselves in at every moment of time, we need to learn how to consolidate
Я
it.
принес открытку. На
And
этой открытке
do not let yourself be knocked out of this feeling,
дерево с
because
огоньками.
everything around is aimed at knocking you out of this
Дерево
feeling
с
of
этими
joy and
огоньками — это,
happiness.
те
Distract,
сыновья
interrupt, extinguish,
которые
steal,
уже осознали, поняли необходимости.
and just recently I brought a postcard.
То есть ты
On
наслаждаешься
this
жизнью, ты
postcard,
радуешься всему,
it's like a
но ты при
Christmas
этом
tree,
являешься примером
a tree with
его
lights.
света.
And
День
this
за днем,
tree
и
with
всё
these
будет его
lights
увеличивать,
represents the sons of God who have already realized and understood the necessity of being light.
Но это действительно так.
So,
Одна улыбка
you are living your life,
светлее.
and it is going on. But at the same time, you become an example of His light for others to help them increase their own light and add it in the world.
Эти манипуляции энергии жизни довели ситуацию
It's quite
на
interesting how
планете
people
до
say,
критической
your
точки.
smile makes the day brighter.
Что это значит?
It's absolutely true. A single smile truly has the power to
В прошлом
brighten our
видео
day.
я дал пример о ядерной электростанции.
And so today, we find ourselves in a situation
Нашу реальность можно
where
сравнить
these
с большим
manipulations with the
реактором.
very energy of life
Ядерная
have brought the entire situation on our planet
И в этом
to an
нашем большом
absolutely critical
реакторе
point.
происходят процессы, реакции.
What does this mean?
Например, реакции между мужчиной и женщиной.
In my previous video, I provided an illustration using a nuclear power plant.
Когда
What I mean is, our reality can be looked to a massive reactor,
быть светом,
much like a nuclear power plant, for
добавлять
instance.
свет в нашу реальность,
And in this large reactor of ours, reaction processes take place. For example, the reaction between a man and a woman.
загасить, доходя уже до того, чтобы обрезать какие-то части
And
тела,
when we don't make the conscious decision to be a source of light and to bring more light into our own reality,
энергия жизни
and yet, when manipulations are occurring at every level,
мы говорили
to
о том,
deem
что
this light
это
within
выражается
people,
в
even
извержениях,
reaching the
ветра,
point of
ураганах.
cutting off certain body parts from individuals.
Эти извержения
So,
и события,
on our
следующие
planet,
за ними,
an imbalance is occurring,
отражают
where the
положение.
very energy of life,
Так вот, в
at
Библии
an
говорится, что
extremely
последние
low
дни
level.
первое
We've been discussing how this is clearly evident in the eruptions of the Black Diamond Pool geyser,
говорится о том, что
and how
те,
these
кто добавляет
eruptions
света в нашу реальность,
and the events that subsequently unfold, they truly reflect the actual
Почему?
state of
Потому что
affairs. So, the Bible says that in the last days,
деньги,
the first will be
но
last,
в этом мире
and the last will be first. What is the meaning behind this?
единицы измерения.
It means that those who bring light into our reality,
Когда мы
they are the ones who
нашу
become
реальность, в которой
first.
мы живем,
Why?
реактор-
Because we've grown accustomed to using money.
реактором,
But in this world that God created,
то человек,
there are other main currencies of
в
measurement:
котором мы находимся,
energy.
является основным источником энергии.
So,
творящей.
when we compare our reality
Сегодня мы видим,
in which we live to a nuclear reactor, the person in this reactor in which we find ourselves is the main source of this life-giving energy. And today, we are clearly witnessing how wars are being deliberately provoked.
И
And in the previous video, we compared people and control rods in nuclear reactors. So, people are being killed in the big reactor, our reality. By destroying or removing control rods, this leads to an explosion of the reactor as in Chernobyl disaster. Whether in Palestine or in Ukraine. And this shedding of blood, it leads to consequences. And these consequences are expressed in the fact that there are fewer energy producers, and consequently, less energy. In October, we witnessed many eruptions at this black diamond pool. But even a single person can stabilize the energy of life on our planet, as Jesus and John demonstrated by their example. And so today the moment has come for us to stop waiting and instead to learn to understand things on our own and add light to the world. Be light. Strive for it. And in that way, we can easily restore this balance. If we do not do this, exactly what Jesus warned about will happen. But he also said those days would be shortened. So, this is why we're making this video, so that together we can understand and shorten those days when other teams try to influence us with various methods and manipulations to get through it. Well, now I'd like to talk about some simple things. How we can help our life energy stay at a good level and not drop so much. Well, number 1 is the 10 Commandments. They are not only God's divine law, but they also serve as a crucial recommendation from an energetic perspective, guiding us on how we should conduct ourselves in relation to one another, so that the overall situation remains positive and harmonious in the very place where we reside. News. We've just been discussing the power of words and their profound impact on our feelings. This means we need to get accustomed to having filters for our ears and our eyes, so that certain information, even if we clearly see it, we don't allow it to pass directly through our feelings. Third, well, for men to keep all the organs that God gave them. Jesus hinted at this too. If you read without assistance, you will see this. Of course, it's joy. If there's an opportunity to prolong it, to linger in that feeling, if there's a chance to love, to call your mother, to help a friend, to do a good deed, transfer grandma across the street, why not? Of course, we do it. This is how we are an example of His light. I still have a lot to say. I don't want to make this video too long. I will just say that today, I repeat, the level of life energy on the planet is again at a low level, a very low level. On the 22nd November, when there was another eruption, Black Diamond Geyser, the sun condition was bad. If you watch the video that I posted, our previous video, in the Black Diamond Pool eruption, you will see that bad white sun there. That is, when we don't add this light, and we add this light through our higher feelings, we are like a thermostat. If we set our hearts to a certain warmth before we leave the house, people say, a warm heart. Kiwi. If we choose to step out into the world with a truly warm heart, then we will certainly add light to this world and become a shining example of His radiance. But if we fail to do so, we simply won't achieve that. And fourth, in the morning at 6 a.m., at the break of dawn, when the sun begins to rise, it's highly recommended to do so at the very same time each day. Anastasia, from Vladimir Megre's book, gave us this valuable advice. At 6 in the morning, or whenever it's convenient for you, but ideally at 6 a.m. Sit down with the sunrise and think about all that is bright, good, and kind. So, from the start of the day, we are energetically at work. However, we need to reach this point to understand that in order to continue living in light, we produce light. Then we can easily restore the energy imbalance that has developed today due to lack of knowledge and restore it. But I must add that, while through provocations, the energy of life has fallen to a very low level, we're now hearing about nuclear tests that America and Russia are already talking about, allegedly preparing to conduct. We hear that Europe is debating whether to shoot down planes or not, or whether to steal Russian assets or not. These are the kinds of consequences, not counting the consequences of nature. But if earlier we were thinking that those who control the world are on Wall Street, then today you can control the world by controlling how the words or a word affects you. From a cornfield, and not from Wall Street. I wish for all of us to continue living in the light and to expand it every single day. Thank you.